We have to have better self-talk before we can have better self-care. Welcome to Without a Doubt, the podcast, where we explore the transformative journey of breaking cycles and embracing our truest self. I'm Mad, a cycle breaker, a creative, and a sprinkle of reality. If they ever told you to be quiet, sit down, blend in, but you couldn't, this podcast is for you. I'm so happy you're here. A few weeks back, I was listening to a podcast. It's the Bird Braid podcast, and he was talking about how sometimes we're doing so much for self-care that we start to loathe the self-care we think we need to be doing, and we end up ignoring the true idea of self-care. When we think of self-care, we think manicures, massages, a self-help book, a nature walk, shit. I have an entire podcast on free self-care, but I'm so over talking about how self-care is going to help when I know I'm not into the books or the gurus or the coaches. I roll my eyes and I think it is so cringe when we are talking about things to do for self-care, when in the reality of things, self-care is how we actually self-talk and self-treat ourselves. So often I have negative self-talk to myself about my body, more so lately, as I've been working 40 hours a week, doing all the other things, and doing the bare minimum on working out. I do have a labor-intensive job. I walk sometimes 12 miles plus at the events I work, like I did this past Saturday, and I am moving and being more mobile with my body than I have ever been. However, I'm not consistently lifting like I should, or moving weights like I used to. However, I can low squat now, hold a low squat, and move a little bit better than I used to when I was on the consistent lift grind. Of course, right now, when I record this podcast, they are mowing my lawn. True self-care right now would be like, hey, Madison, can't do anything about it. This is the only time that you have to record this podcast. Can you even hear that? It's life, right? Like, how am I going to be stressed out about something I'm out of control? By the way, they're coming to pressure clean today. And anyway, let's try to get back into this episode. Hopefully it doesn't come right back up my walkway again. You would think with all the self-care podcasts, books, accounts I did follow, I would be done with all the self-talk that's so crappy. But no, I'm human and I do talk badly to myself about my body and why I feel so squishy. I have gotten, as a human, my body has changed. I've gotten older, and I do think that this is a core reminder that self-care starts within our mind. We have to have better self-talk before we can have better self-care. A lot of the common self-care tips stress the importance of being well-rested, eating a healthy diet, engaging in a recommended amount of exercise. I do agree with all of that, but what happens when we no longer have the mental or physical energy to even do any of those things or meet our weekly goals or daily goals? That is where I have been attempting to do it all. Even this podcast, it feels like a pull for me right now. I do not get paid to do this. I actually pay to put this out. It is my little project, but being able to skip a week should be okay for me, but it's not. It's not. My mental headspace told me I am committed to my endless project right now and that I need to put out the work. But the true self-care in this situation would have been for me to give myself grace and rest and not put out this episode, but I didn't do that. You see where I'm getting at here. We tend to be bogged down with responsibilities and life. And how is it possible to do all of the things when you already have a lot going on? Something has to give. So if you've been reading the books, listening to the podcast, you have a coach, you do all the self-care things, but you are still burnt out, it may be a good time to actually sit back and see what's really burning you out. The stress to do all of these things, like read the 10 pages a day, listen to your podcast, your 5 minutes of positivity, getting your 3-mile walk in, do all the 5 times workouts a week. It's all bullshit. It's not doable for us all. And we have to do better as a society to not lay it on so thick with our thoughts of self-care, because self-care is personal. Is resting self-care? Fuck yes, it is. But it is not always easy to do. And if you have a stressful job, a stressful situation, feeling financially unstable, life crisis, how are you going to rest? If you have kids, obligations, commitments, How can you just say no? I mean, you could say no. But in the grand scheme of things, you shouldn't feel bad for not getting the self-care you think you need. That's just another stressor on top of the stressors. The grace you need to move with is the grace for space. Doing less and feeling better. I actually typed in my outline, and feeling freezer. Doing less and freezing. That is actually probably what we need to do. Another thing I'm actually trying to work on, just doing less and feeling better. I've moved out of that self-care bullshit, because how many people need to tell you that you just need to take the first step? You need to just start, or that you deserve rest. What you deserve is fucking brain space. You deserve to breathe, think freely, and you deserve to be joyful. If doing the things isn't giving you the space, the breathing room, the thought freedom, the joy, why are you doing it? The misconception that self-care helps is another scam. Buying into the idea that true self-care means finding tranquility and calmness in the midst of a storm. It's being able to respond rationally in the time of a crisis. And it's being able to just be free of the brain fog. How lucky are those people if you're actually living like that? How to actually do this, it starts with you, it starts with us, it starts with me. It starts within us. Maybe that means letting some shit go and clearing your plate of the things that no longer serve you versus adding to your plate that is already full. Self-care fundamentally starts with how we self-talk, how we self-view ourselves, and how we move. It's not what we actually do. It's okay to change your idea of what self-care is. It's okay to change that idea on the daily. But it's all about our intentions for how we want to feel. Go out there, be free, and make sure that you are living as the person that you want to be. Being authentic means following your own path, forging forward. That means caring for you and yourself, however that feels right to you. Without a doubt, you are a badass. Don't you forget that, and I will see you next week. XOXO, your girl Mad.